Hey everyone, welcome to Rhythm and Roads. I'm your host, Joshua Jacob, and this is the Femme Frontera Film Festival interview series. And we have a special guest. We have writer-director Cristal Gonzalez Avila of Color Cielo, which is showing at the Film Fest. Welcome, Cristal.
Hello, gracias. Thank you for having me today.
Pleasure to have you on. Yeah, thank you, and look forward to hearing your story. And congrats that your film Color Cielo is showing at the Film Fest.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It was a festival that was recommended by a friend, and they just talk so much about all the beautiful people running it. So I'm just excited that I'm also
Part of
that
it.
my film is part of it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, congrats on that. Yeah. Well, to get started on the interview here, I do want to ask you just your story behind of how you started or where you're from. But yeah, where are you from?
Born and raised in Watsonville, California. It's a
Oh, nice.
small agricultural town. So I lived there most of my adult life too, and
Okay.
moved out momentarily to go to San Jose State and then to Los Angeles. But now I live and serve like the Quad County. So I live in San Juan Bautista, but anywhere from Oakland to King City and
Oh, wow.
other directions. So I'm a local artist that is able to work across counties.
Nice. Very cool. So you're based in California.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Man, you're so blessed to have the ocean and the weather.
Yeah, and all the orchards and
Yeah.
all the vegetables and everything comes out of the coast, so of this little area. So I am very blessed. But yes, the ocean is a big part of it.
Yes. I was actually just out there this past weekend with my brother celebrating his birthday in Anaheim.
Okay.
Man, the night was just like, I think 70 degrees, 65. Felt so good. The breeze and waking up in the morning, we're at the Disney hotels. We'll woke up and just all overcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. I love all that about California.
Yeah, we really do get nice weather and hopefully hopefully more of our work. Also, like I don't know, I'm not pivoting too hard, but there's so much about our region, and I think sometimes we're limited to what we see in terms of like our creations or our art form. So
Right.
I think that's why it's important that I'm happy that Color Cielo made it to the festival because it speaks to like a small little town
Mm.
that I'm from. So
Right. Well, let's get into your story. So, how did you get into the film industry? What was the start of the interest of like, you know what, I want to be a director. I want to write stories, script stories. How did all that start?
Well, I first and foremost, I'm an actor, and I think I knew that since I was very little.
Oh, see, I didn't know that you were an actor. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, well, we're getting to know each other.
That's right.
But
Oh, cool.
yeah, that's how I started as a performer. And I didn't have necessarily exposure to it or proper like lessons or classes. Those resources weren't necessarily available to me growing up. But there was like the desire to perform. Selena was a big part of it growing up. I grew up in the Selena era, the first
Oh,
one.
cool.
And my family watched a lot of novelas, like
Okay.
operas, right, in
Yeah.
Spanish. But there was always like a desire to like dip into the imagination and like create characters outside of me. And I now in retrospect, I think my body did it as a means to like protect itself or like escape from things that were happening at home that I was too little maybe to understand or unpack. Um, but that little like window that I found, if you will, saved me, and it allowed me to really like transport to like spaces and places, and that muscle continued to grow and grow, and it wasn't anything like, oh, this is just for fun. This was like, no, this is part of who I am. I'm an artist, and I'm gonna be an artist my whole life. Like that's part of my purpose.
Yeah.
Do a lot of other things, right? But I've been continuously creating, whether it's performing or like directing, writing, producing, just because I've needed to fill those other spaces in order to make a space for myself.
Hmm.
And I think that's kind of how this idea of like, let's make a film came about, or let's make films, was I wasn't getting cast in your, typical Hollywood calling. That's not who I am. That's not who I look like. Maybe, at least the what socially gets put out there
Okay.
changed now, but at the time I felt like I the version of me didn't belong in film.
Okay.
So I needed to create that home for myself. And I needed to write those stories that weren't being told. So then I started writing.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I needed to find money to produce it. So then I became producer, right? And now I'm in a place where I write with intentionality. I write because this story is is needed, because it needs a breath, because it needs to be shared. And so my work is not done with the intention of just to create. It usually holds a deeper meaning. And in my work, I attempt to amplify the voices of where I come from the people that I live with,
Mm.
the people that have always been around, and whose narratives tend to be be silenced. So, and I've continued to evolve. I was talking to another friend of mine, and I said we're in a very beautiful place where we could witness our evolution too as artists. Sometimes we get stuck in a very specific box,
Right.
and that's all we create. But now that we could see, like, oh, my writing style is changing. Like, that's awesome. Like, it's
Yeah.
another layer of you that continues to like uh, give birth and die at the same time. So, yeah, I don't know if I answered all your question, but I think I'm still finding myself and my voice in film. Um, but but I know it's important, and I know I have to be louder. Um, and here I am doing the best that I can to make sure I show up not only for myself, but those before me and after me.
Mm. I like that. Thank you for sharing that. I really liked what stood out was the opportunity wasn't there and you were seeing you weren't getting it, but you created your own opportunity.
Mm.
And that's what sometimes we have to do that. We're okay, we can't just sit around and wait and it's like, no, get up and create
Yeah.
your own story, your own opportunities. As what you said, because you said you weren't getting casted on certain films, there was really no, so you're like, well, then I just did my own thing, then I created my own
Well,
story.
right, because then you're waiting on someone to validate you as an
Oh,
artist,
right, exactly.
or to someone to call you a writer, or to call you, an actress, or to call you a director.
Right.
And I wasn't in a place, or I'm not in a place that I need to wait
Hmm.
for someone else to validate. I'm like, no, I have to be in the driver's seat. And
Mm.
if I don't see it, I then that's just allowing me to kind of own my power and say, well, I'm
Right.
going to show you that I could do it. And I'm taking an alternative route.
No, yeah.
And it's been a beautiful journey, and it hasn't been lonesome. It allows community to come in and support you.
That's awesome.
I think that's what keeps me going as an artist, is that because the work that I'm attempting to do is intentional.
Mm.
People come, they lean in, and they don't lean in for the money, they lean in with the heart. So the work or the product at the end is so much richer and deeper, because we were all invested emotionally, right?
Oh,
And
of course. Yeah.
I always say that you could have the best budget, you could have, some really awesome, Hollywood names
Yeah.
on a movie, but if the story doesn't have a heart, it won't have a pulse.
Well said on that. Good
Yeah,
point.
it
Yeah.
won't. And I don't mean that to disregard any of the work that's doing that, but I do recognize some stuff is being done in a way that's very almost like mechanical, or like
Mm.
fast. We want to turn things around fast.
Yeah.
And for me, at times, it's like, let's take a breath and see what are these characters saying, and why are we asking them to speak? And if we dig deep, if we, put our feet in that, if we invest in the story, then then it's going to resonate, not just with a given specific population, but it'll become universal, you know. And I think that's what we need to aim towards. We got to see each other as a whole, and see how our stories interconnect with each other.
I like that. And also, you're creating a platform to give that others a voice to share their story or just to give their help in a film of what you're wanting to do.
Yeah.
Kind of like creating jobs for other filmmakers to be a part of your journey.
As we should be,
Yeah.
right? I
No,
can't
of
just
course.
open the door and walk in. I gotta open the door for a few homies coming
There you
too.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's you. We have to. I learned that I can't do this alone. I
Yeah.
don't want to do it alone.
Yeah. You
Why
shouldn't
you
have to
move?
do it alone.
No, but part of the art, like sometimes it's like I'm gonna go to get this job. Am I gonna? I don't want to share my resource. I'm the opposite. If I know of you, if I know your ability, if I know your strengths, like I want to amplify you. I want to make sure people know you. I want to bring you up with me. Like
There you go.
this is the only way we I think we create a future that's diverse and that encompasses multiple narratives
Right.
and multiple colors and um yeah, so I'm going to bring you along for the ride, and I think I'm hoping that people that I've worked with so far feel that way about how I engage in my art making. You know, I
Yeah.
when we film or when we're doing like a theatrical play, I start with a circle. We just get in a circle and we talk about why we're there, what's our intention, and then at the end of a 8 hour or 15-hour shoot, we close with the circle too, and we give gratitude for the day or the work. And it's not to I don't think I do it with the intention of being like mocking ritual, but because that's part of who I am. I know that in a circle, my tribe protects me, people protect me, we protect each other, we take care of each other.
Mm.
And energy somehow tends to flow uh, more more harmoniously in a circle. So those are just things that I know I do to kind of ground myself in my art making, in my filmmaking.
That's so cool that you guys have that before and after meetings like that with a circle. Kind of make sure everyone's just feeling good, doing okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
And I believe that's important. Instead of just showing up and be like, all right, let's go. It's like, wait, let's get together. Let's see how we're doing. How are you doing? You ready for this?
Check-in at a human level.
There you go.
If
Yeah,
I see you first as a human and not as my grip,
exactly. Yeah.
you're going to see me as a human too. So then,
Mhm.
even if I do get frustrated or things come up,
Right.
you were reminded in the beginning that I'm human too. I
That's
mean, that there's room for error, right? And vice
that's right.
or if you come into the circle and I feel your energy and I feel you low, I know I'm not gonna push you to the limit right now
Wow.
because that's gonna set us back.
Right.
I'm actually gonna support you today. But you can't do that if you just get into the work. I think it comes back for me to the power of story.
Mm.
Because if we're telling a story together, we walk in every day, wherever we go,
Right.
with a story. We all walk in with that little backpack on our backs. It sometimes it weighs heavier than others.
Very
And
true.
I
Very
don't know, it's an invisible backpack. You're wearing
true.
it, I'm wearing it.
Yeah.
And that own personal things that we bring into the table,
Mm.
as much as like check out and check in, that
Yeah.
stuff doesn't come off and on very easily for everyone. So that's why I think those círculos, I'm making sure we're all reminded that we're human and that we're telling a human story, a human journey,
That's right.
and that we're gonna work from something that we all know, and it's gonna be the heart. We're gonna work from the heart, and if that means we're gonna take a couple of deep breaths during the shoot, that's what we're gonna do.
There you go. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
yeah, well said. And it's very true just to see each other as, like you said, human, that we are not robots. We're not there to show up and just work real quick.
Mhm.
Check how everyone's doing. How are we doing mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and we're there to ready to work and but just make sure we're doing okay just outside of work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
What's
like
the
that. Man, I want to work with you.
Come on over.
It's like, yeah, man. I love that. I love a crew like that.
Yeah. It's been efficient for us. It's
That's
work.
awesome.
It's really the work that we've put out as Cero Cuadro. Um, I think it speaks to that. It speaks that
Mm.
we hold the breath, collect a collective breath, that
Right.
we make sure we're all in it together and that we're showing up for each other when we need to.
And by doing that as a great leader as you are, the results are even better
Yeah.
because everyone respects, everyone is putting in their heart into it because they know that they're being appreciated and they're being cared for. So you get a lot more people putting in the work because of who you
Yeah.
are as a leader.
And it grows, right? Like think
Yeah.
about that. Like if we all came into spaces with like an attitude of like empathy and like
Mhm.
showing up for each other, like this group could only get bigger. This energy will only get bigger.
Yeah.
These spaces will continue
Right.
to grow. And it doesn't happen overnight by no means.
Oh no.
But I've come to find like lead with that and
Yeah.
good things are gonna happen. And so far they have been. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
sticking to my ritual.
Please do. Awesome. Well, let's get into your color Cielo.
Mhm.
And so, what is this journey behind this film that you, I take it, wrote it, right? You wrote the script
I did.
and directed it.
Yes, and I
All
ended up
right.
performing in it too.
And you star in it as well.
I did, and it wasn't initially that wasn't the idea that I would
Okay.
perform in it, but I'll get to that when I talk a little bit about it. So, Color Cielo for me is a personal story. Like most of my work, it does have a connection to where I come from,
Okay.
and I I wrote it to in dedication of my father's journey when he left Mexico.
Oh, okay.
But then I also thought about all the other young men that leave their native land in
Mm.
search of a better future. And when I was writing it, I really thought it was about the young man's journey, about him leaving.
Mm.
Um, but when I was done writing the short, I realized it was actually, I was writing it for my grandmother too. Um, I didn't get to have the relationship that I maybe imagined I would have with my father's mother,
Okay.
Abuelita. Um, and in the process, I got to know her a little bit more, and I got to notice, I got to feel, um, I got to step into some moments that she lived through,
Well,
and um, and it kind of it this piece as a whole, I think, has evolved for me a lot because when I wrote it, I was like, it's to, it's to tell the journey of my father, to honor his journey and all the journeys of migrantes.
mhm.
And then when I was directing it, it was like, oh, it's because I want to get to know um, my grandmother and and that experience, right? This was a way to connect with her. But then when I was in it, when I was living it, I realized it was me creating an alternative world to say goodbye to my father
Well,
as his mother.
mm,
And even during filming, it didn't dawn on me that way. It was actually during editing.
okay.
Like here I go again, my art saving me in
Wow.
its own magical way. And I needed to reclaim that moment for myself because I know that in real life, I wasn't going to have that moment back.
Mm,
Now, my father has not passed away, but parts of him, moments of him have. I've had to mourn moments without him. And I do remember him leaving and not saying goodbye to me and how much that hurt me.
wow.
And in this piece, I'm able to look at him in the eyes and actually demand that he looks at me in the eyes and say goodbye to me. And
Wow.
I that's what the artist in me
Hmm.
was pushing. I needed that. I needed that moment in order to process and heal. And I don't know if all that comes across in the film, but I know the journey of creating this film has liberated me in many ways. And I'm in love with the piece for many reasons. But at a universal level, it's a story or it's a moment of a mother and son talking. And I think that's what connects us all. we could all identify in that moment when we know we're going to let go of someone that we love and we don't know if we're ever going to see them again.
I've been
Um,
there.
and what does
Um,
that feel like? And and what do you ask for in those
yeah.
moments, you know? So that's what Color Cielo is about. And I the process was super intimate. The filming of it was too. Um, but it's been able to tour in a couple of different film festivals, and one of them, a woman's, came up to me afterwards, and she was crying, and she said, "I that story is mine too, only that I'm a woman and I left my mother,
Oh,
and I said I was going to come back. Now I live in her house in Mexico, and I keep trying to look for her, but she's not here anymore.
wow.
Close my eyes and I can't remember my mother's smile." And I had to sit with that because it's true. The sacrifices that people that migrate go through. And it's a sacrifice because you don't even know if you're going to make it. The
Mm,
journey itself to come to the United States is so dangerous.
mm,
So it's just the idea of it. But then you make it, and there's other things that keep you here thinking, if I stay here a little longer, there's going to be more money to send back, or my family's going to be more stable. And then you just become part of the machine. And before you know it, every promise you made to go back, um, just you never get around to it until you have to go bury a, family member, or you go and visit them at the gravestone. And then what?
yeah.
Right. So I don't know if I'm saying too much,
No,
but
go ahead. You're doing well.
um,
You're- like, don't stop.
anyways, and I think that's part of why we make art, I think, is so that we have dialogue about it. And
Hmm.
I think more than ever right now, I think we're missing these places where
Right.
we could be in conversation with each other. And sometimes a conversation doesn't even happen. A man at another film festival just came and hugged me and cried, and we cried together.
Wow.
Um, and it's about the human contact that we're not having enough of.
Very
And,
true.
and I think if I see you and you see me, in this work, or we see pieces of each other, it brings us a lot closer as humanity, and hopefully, it continues to build bridges where we get to see each other, and the need for each other to unite and and become closer, and check in, and all these beautiful things, that make us human. And um, anywho's, I'll stop there, but the
No,
journey
thanks.
has been beautiful so far.
No, I'm like, no, you said a lot of great stuff. Thank you so much. And it's very true. We do need to really connect with others and in a deeper way that it's just that's not really how things are these days, you know. And when I did mention that I did relate to saying goodbye to a family member, she was passing from cancer and it was my late mother. But that moment sitting next to her, just knowing the fact that like I'm never gonna see you again after this moment I have with you. It's a life changer, you know? I mean, you always say bye to family, friends that throughout your journey of your life, I'll see you later, bye. But this is a moment of like every word I'm gonna be saying could be only the last that she'll ever hear.
Yeah.
And even in that moment when she was going, you don't even know when her spirit already left her body. You know what I mean? Like you could talk to her the last minute or two, but she may not even heard when you have the last words have to say, you know? And that's the hardest is when you, especially someone close to you, like your father or your mom, even like sister, brother, whoever it is. It's one of those moments that it's I sometimes lose my kind of words on stuff like this, but it's emotional. It does really get you. It really
It
does.
changes you.
It
It
changed.
it changes you, and that's, I think, thank you for sharing what you shared,
Oh yeah,
because these are the stories that connects us,
yeah,
that we could relate to,
right,
and it's in the little moments that transform us.
right.
So I think about that too, because sometimes we make films thinking it has to be about something really big,
Mm.
We lose sight of the little things that change our lives forever.
Of course, yeah.
And it's that goodbye,
Yeah.
right? Whether it was you sitting, by your mother's side, um, or in this case, the story of Color Cielo,
Hmm.
a mother, holding on to her son.
Right.
But there was still going to be a physical detachment.
Right.
Um, and it's in that little moment that a lifetime happens because that one choice changes you
Yeah.
and transforms you in a way that you won't be the same.
I totally agree.
There's this, yeah. So
And just yesterday, I just flew back from Las Vegas, Nevada, or really, I should say Henderson. My grandmother, which is my mom's mom,
mm,
my late mom's mom, she's up there, and she's gonna be 88 next month.
yeah,
And her husband is 96, which he'll be 97 in November.
mhm,
But what I'm trying to get at is the goodbye, because I mean, when I lost my mom, I'm still dealing with it. I mean, her anniversary was just a week ago of May 29th. She passed May 29th, 2021. And so this recent, last about a week ago, week and a half.
yeah,
But the thing is, saying bye to my grandmother yesterday when she's going to be 88, it's hard, because I don't know when, I mean, I could still catch a flight and go see her, but I don't live there.
yeah,
I can't just, hey, I'm gonna come over after work. It's just like when you say goodbye, it's like, well, could this be the last time I see her? Even if
mhm,
I do plan on seeing her in a couple of months for my
sure,
birthday in September, but anything can happen from here till September. Not that you want to dwell on that or think about it, but it's just the thought that that's life too.
yeah,
And it sucks, and it feels just like I wish I was there all the time with my grandmother,
sure,
just to give her that the last of her. I mean, I'm not saying she's gonna go anytime soon. I mean, hopefully not. I mean, she's okay health wise right now. But I'm just saying it's like, well, what do you do what do you do at 88? Or you know what I mean? It's like you're like I drove them to Cracker Barrel on the far east side of Las Vegas, right? Because there's not one where they're at. But because of their age, they can't drive
mm,
far out. And so for me, it's like a blessing of just driving them a little outside the circle of what they're known to do day in and day out,
outside of their
to
routine.
the
Yeah,
routine, just to drive another 20 minutes outside. And then you could just tell in their face, like, we haven't been out in this side of town in a long time. And thank you for taking us to Cracker Barrel,
yeah,
just out of our zone, And the thing is, it's like I wish I could do a lot more, like. And that's the thing. It's just be a blessing when you can. Even the little things like that go a long way.
absolutely. And I think you're talking to like your roots too, right? Your mother has passed, but you have your grandmother, your abuelita.
Right.
So you're holding on to her. There's an extension of your mother in her arms.
Well, there is because yeah,
So
once I mean, I don't like to think about it, but when she goes, I'm like,
yeah,
now what? Like my mom's gone, my grandmother's gone, and both of them are the closest thing to me. My late mom, but now my grandmother. So it's I don't know. I mean,
you
I'm
know,
not married or I'm not in a relationship. I was, but dang, I'm like, it'd be nice to have a significant other now, just in case that moment comes.
before you dive into your work and your art and you find them there, I a good mentor of mine once said that we have the ability to recreate whatever moment
Mm,
on stage or retell a moment
right.
on stage or film, if you will. And I think sometimes that's our saving grace as artists, because we can't. It's hard to put so much responsibility on externally other people doing it for us.
Mm,
If we put it on stage, if we amplify it, it's almost like the universe hears you too. So
mm,
my mother has been wheelchair bound, gosh, for close to 30 years now.
30 years, your
I'm
mother?
sorry. She got MS when I was 8, but she's been
Oh,
wheelchair
wow.
bound for maybe like 20 years now. Um, and I don't have a memory of her walking or,
Wow.
or running or dancing, but I have to create that for myself, or I think I'll go
Yeah.
nuts. She's still with us, um, fragile and petite.
Yeah.
Um, but I needed that. I needed to write about her dancing
Wow.
in order for me to feel as a woman
Hmm.
there was more to or my woman experience, or that I couldn't deprive myself of some experiences because I didn't see it lived out,
Right.
for my own model, my mother. So we have to recreate those moments, or we got to find those moments somewhere else, um, not always in someone else.
Right.
And and I think that's the beautiful thing about like film festivals, or like making art with people, with a group
Right.
of people. It brings us together. We are no longer alone in this creation, or in this pain, or in this joy. We're bringing people in to our universe, or creating
Yes.
universes, and it heals us, and it liberates us, and it just it just makes us existing so much more richer because
No.
you have people to share it with. It's
Oh,
not
yeah. I
like
agree.
stagnant. But I don't know if I pivoted too hard. I'm sorry, but
No, you're good. No, you're fine. But I'm really just wow about your mom. I'm so sorry.
it's been a journey,
I mean, I
and
can't imagine how it's been.
um, that
I
I'm
mean,
grateful.
part of me wished my mother didn't have to go through cancer for 8 years. And I mean, just the suffering from that. I
Mm,
mean, that's the thing. It's like two different worlds from what your mom has and then cancer, but it's like, which one would you prefer her to have? You know what I mean? If my mom were to choose,
yeah.
like, should I get cancer or MS?
Mhm.
But
And they both had their own journeys, right?
they do. I bet. Yeah.
So I just know my mother has been my greatest lesson. She's
Yeah.
reminded me to slow down when I feel like I need to move very quickly. She's grounded in that, and she's a woman of deep faith, and I think that's where my spirituality comes in terms of just like loving people, or wanting
Yeah.
to show love to others. Um,
That's how my mom was. I mean,
yeah.
she was big on God and her faith.
Mm.
And that's what kept her going. Um,
Yeah.
surprisingly, extremely deep waters that she went
Mm.
through.
Yeah.
That and I know we're a little off topic on this, but my dad's best friend, which he to me was like a second dad at times, he passed from ALS.
Oh man.
But like I've grew up with him as one of his because he was a musician here in El Paso and he played a lot of places in El Paso and I hung out with him and helped him with his setups for his gigs. And, I was a teenager, I was earning some side cash, but he's my dad's best friend since high school, so he's known me since I was a kid. So the way that he was with me was similar. He never had any kids of his own, so he kind of treated me like his son at times, and I really was appreciative of him. And where I'm getting at is he passed away this past March, and when I went to go see him while he was pretty much going, he looked at me and this is again about goodbyes. I looked at him and I said, David, thank you for being the way you were with me for all majority of my life and for being a blessing. And I'm sorry that you had to go through this because he only had ALS for like 2 years and it took him.
Wow. And it took him.
And it
Yeah.
took him, but prior to that, he was playing guitar, he was singing, he was traveling, going to the gym, and just such of a quick change in life from that life of what he would do to being bedridden.
Yeah.
And then to the point on his last hour of his life where, well, I wasn't there when he passed, but he was going and he died the following day. But that moment of saying bye to him was extremely hard and it triggered a lot from my mom, because it was
Mm.
someone very close to me. Um, but I guess where I'm getting at is he wrote a song because he was also a believer, and he wrote a song called Father to Son. It was a Christian song back in the 80s, and he had his own cassette tape. And that song I've always been so I just love the song so much.
Yeah.
But I told him, I said right before I left, and I was kneeling right beside him, I said, that song, you're about to experience that right now. Meaning you're about to meet heaven, where the Father's going to welcome you as his son.
Oh.
That song is so much, his song was based on that.
Mm.
And he wrote this probably in his
Yeah.
late 20s, right? And maybe early 30s when he was writing this, when he had his songs out in the cassette tape. But I remember I mentioned that to him. I
Mm.
said that song because I he knew that song was like my favorite. So when I mentioned that Father to Son, I was like, that's a moment right now you're about to experience. Just your father welcoming you, you know. But that
But look
goodbye
at
though,
that. Look at that. It was his art. We are talking about it. We are talking about goodbyes, and it looks differently, right? And it's not
yeah.
it doesn't always have to be the death of a loved one.
No, no,
It could be
no.
the death, it could be the death of a relationship because
Of
of distance and
course.
time,
Yeah.
right? There's death in that too.
Yeah. Of
There's death in who I am or who this person is in relationship to someone else
course.
because life will change after this moment. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the same person if I, without you near or whatnot. So I think ultimately it is about goodbyes
Good.
and about not wanting to let go. Because saying goodbye to them means, mourning your own death too, or parts of you. Um, People walk away from our lives, taking little bits of us
Yeah.
and it's as part of it. It's definitely part of our journey as humans. But it doesn't get easy,
It doesn't.
especially if there's so
Mm.
much love to them, and you sharing so many personal moments with with your familia, and hearing you talk about your Theo going back, and you saying you're gonna go, that song that you wrote, you're going back to it. His art saved him too.
Yeah.
At the end of his lifetime, his song
Yeah.
was his prayer, if you will, or
Yeah.
maybe, his song was a prayer you gave to him. Um, and I think art has the ability to do that, to heal us, to transform us, to take us to different spaces,
Yeah.
to save us, to love us, to take care of us, and that we have the ability to share our stories
Right.
with a wider community than what we were expecting. That's already a win. If we could do more of it, if more of us could do more of it, if
I
more
do
women
agree.
could do more of it, I mean,
Yeah.
please, yes, let's do it. This right here, I know you now. We're talking, you know what I mean? In the beginning,
Yeah,
we were
it's
strangers,
yeah.
and now I'm feeling your heart. Now I understand you. I get to know a little bit more about your journey too. And because of that, I'm better. I'm
Mm.
a better human because of that,
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes all this kind of worth it. It's that in the journey of creating, we get to cross paths with people, and exchange your own personal connections to this work,
Yep.
and we build.
And when you, yes, and I totally agree. And when you have that, make a difference. Be the light of inspiration. Do something that will help others. Yes, sometimes we get caught up and I'm at fault with it, with ourselves and what we're doing. But it's also like, wait, where it's not just about us, it's about others. It's about us helping others,
Mhm.
because, this journey is just not about Joshua or Crystal.
No, no, it's not.
It's about what did you do to impact someone else's life? What did you do to make a difference in your community and it doesn't have to be anything big either. You don't have to be something like wow, like but just even like I did with my grandparents, right? I just drove them to a restaurant outside of the realm that
Yep.
they're day in day out after a few months of just the same routine and they were just that just right there was like, man, they did something to them. Hey, why
True.
not take someone that that hasn't been out in a while, do something in return, just
Say hello
help
to the
someone.
neighbor.
Yeah, a neighbor or just doesn't have to be you taking them out. Just do
Yeah.
something for them. Hey, I want to take you out for lunch or just checking up on you. Who knows what it is? Just those little small things can go a long way for someone. And they might even think of it like, wait, what? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. but
You're like, yes, I'm being human again.
I'm just being human, just make
I'm
sure you're
checking
okay.
back in with the heart.
Right.
I did that one time. I was walking and there was a gentleman who didn't, there was something there. I don't know. I still don't know what happened, but
Mm,
they were going through it.
mm,
And all I said, I was like, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" And they like stopped and they're like, "You're asking me if I'm okay? You're asking me if I need anything?" And I'm like, "Yeah, is there anything you
like,
need?"
yeah.
I was like, "Oh my God, we don't do this enough."
Wow.
If it's so unfamiliar,
Right.
we're so caught up in ourselves and our
Yeah.
phones that we forget to just make sure the person that's walking next to you is okay. And if
That's
they're
right.
not, give them a hug. That's what I ended up doing to that man. I was like, "Can I hug you? Can I give you a hug?" We hugged it out. He walked. I didn't change his life, but I reminded him that someone was watching
Right.
and that we're watching each other
There
and
you
we're
go.
that we're meant to take care of each other as humans.
That's right.
And yeah, the little moments I think make it worth it here.
Amen. Yeah, I totally agree. Even those little moments of just offering a hug, you know.
Yeah. Yes.
So, well, Crystal, I just want to say thank you for coming on Rhythm and Roads, and
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, and I wanted to try something different
Oh,
because we're in June. Something, um, it's like, why do you do what you do? Why do you do it? Why do you do the filmmaking? Why do you direct? Why do you write these stories? Like, what is it about you that you want to share about that? Why do you do what you do?
why not? No, I think I I lost a lot of who I was very young.
Mm,
Um, it was taken from me when I was very little, and my narrative is going to change because I want it to,
wow.
and because I need it to.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell the stories um, of the people that I live with and with the people that I grew up with. I spent a lot of time in the campo, in the orchards, growing up as a little girl.
Mm,
I grew up with a lot of limitations, but my mother's ability to smile after a hard day um, allowed me to always dream beyond my limitations.
mm,
And because of that spirit, I need a push. There is no, you're going to stop or you shouldn't do this. There is no dream too big right now. I am, I owe it to little Cristal,
mm.
the little girl.
Wow.
I need to make sure she's taken care of. And I think showing up for myself every
Yeah.
day, um, writing, producing, directing, acting on my own terms sometimes because, you don't always get cast in other projects.
Right.
But if I'm going to show up for myself or for other people that look like me or for my community, if I'm going to bring my local talent together to create, we're going to do it with intention and we're going to do it to touch the heart and we're going to do it to highlight the beautiful people
Wow.
uh, uh, that are familias, whether it's literally our families or people
Right.
that look like us. Um, I write in Spanish and English, and I don't think that's by accident. I often am speaking English and translating in Spanish because I was raised in a Spanish speaking household.
Okay.
So a lot of my writing is in Spanish, and I think it also speaks to honoring that part of me. Um, it's my mother's voice.
Yeah.
It's my father's strength. It's my grandmother's silence. I'm here. I'm here
Hmm.
for it. And I don't know all the stories that I'm going to write yet, but I know I'm staying on this journey, and
I love
And
it.
and I know I have a lot of community around me to support me, and for that I'm grateful.
Wow. Well said. Love that answer.
Yeah.
You
Thanks.
know, you know why I asked it, right?
Tell me.
Like, you put me on the spot on that one, Josh. No, it's because it's because I was at the point of last year I almost gave up on Rhythm and Roads, my
Oh,
podcast. Not like completely cold, just like, okay, I'm done, bye. Not like that, but I'm trying to find something I wanted to read to you. Hold on, let me see. Where do I have? Oh,
but you did it.
well, I'm still here.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Well, but here's what I was asked. So my ex at the time in November,
Mhm.
or it was around that time of last year. I knew I was just kind of like, who's really watching my episodes? Who's really paying attention? Who really cares, right? Like, because I don't have a huge following on my YouTube channel yet, but um, I just have a lot of big support of people who believe in me and what I'm doing. But sometimes you, as the creator, you as the artist, ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? And so she asked me, well, why are you doing what you're doing? Or why do you do what you do? And right away, I didn't answer that like, oh, it's because of this. I'm like, no, I had to really ponder on that question. Like, yeah, why am I, I took a probably like 2 days for me to think about it. And I was just
You gave me a minute.
like, you give me, yeah. But right. But the thing is, I thought about it and it's like, I said, the reason why I do what I do is because one story from all the year and a half that I've been doing, from every story I've been doing, one person with their unique story does something to me. It does
Hmm.
something to me. It does something to that other viewer who just saw it, the fifth viewer, 20th, whoever. But if it did something to me, then why not continue? Because I will do my best to promote it. I will do my best to put it out there. But if it does something to me where I look forward to my own podcast because of your stories, I'm
Mhm.
like, why am I going to stop? Like, I listen to Joe Rogan, I listen to other podcasters, but I look forward to mine. Not
Yeah.
because of what I'm going to say, it's because of
Mhm.
what you're going to say.
Sure.
Everyone has a unique, beautiful story, and it's not always a smooth journey. There's things maybe I need to pick me up, right? And I listen to you, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh wow, I needed that. And I leave from our interview, and I'm like, wow, that was I needed that, like a pick me up. And I get that a lot, you
That's
know?
beautiful. Well, I'm glad you listened to your corazon, to your heart.
I'm
And
glad I did too. Yeah.
yes, I think in this industry, and we have different, you're doing a podcast, I do film or
Right.
theater. So I know it's a different muscle, but in this industry, I think we're often, questioning ourselves
Right.
because of the followers or lack of,
Right.
or like how fast am I moving,
Right.
um, is it going anywhere? It hasn't gone
Right.
anywhere. There's all these self-doubts. I'm getting older, blah, 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 blah. And then there's just because it makes me happy.
Yeah.
And do what you love and everything else will come into play. Like if that's
Exactly.
that one interview that you needed to hear, freaking awesome. I think, I think, I think we're on the right place.
Yeah, I agree.
I can't give up on it yet. I
Oh,
can't. Yeah.
and this right here is, like it doesn't get better than this. It's having the human
No.
connection. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's like God. It's like we already known each other for a while. The way you know what I mean. But it's important for people to have that. Just would what I mean? It's just because we're so caught up, and I'm at fault with it too, where I get on my phone, and that's like when I went to go visit my grandparents, I had to really balance out my
Yeah.
phone with them because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm following up with messages, I'm doing this, but I'm not in the moment with my grandparents. I could
Mm,
easily look up and they're gone.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's
Absolutely.
like I'm like, I need to put this aside. I will get back to them when I can, but right
So
now
we'll
I'm
wait.
with them because
Yeah.
they're alive, they're in front of me. Their time is not forever.
Hmm.
So I had to really work on that this past weekend,
Or your time, right? It's either.
enjoy their time, enjoy being in the moment, live in the.
Yep. Yeah.
So I'm gonna
Yeah.
read this to you before we go.
Okay. Thank you.
But I don't know if you're a big Disney fan back in the classics, but I love Winnie the Pooh. I think there's so much wisdom in their little stories back when I was growing up. But I went to Disneyland this past Monday to celebrate my brother's birthday. And one of the great fireworks shows, they also have a presentation, right? They have like a storyline and all this.
Sure.
But one thing that stood out to me, and I was like, very interesting. I was like, I like that because a lot of us can really, or at times, say this or even think this. But towards the end of the fireworks show, they have a presentation, like I mentioned. It's on the castle, and they're showing different figures, different Disney figures, saying certain things from movies. And one of them was Winnie the Pooh at the very end. And he says, and the reason why I think he's mentioning this is because the show's almost over, right? The fireworks show, and everyone pretty much goes home after this at times. So I feel like this is a way for them to put this because of the us, the guests, how we feel. And I was like, it's very interesting that I know I'm going on this, but I just want to make sure you understand. I think the reason why they put this towards the end of the show for us as we're watching it is because we think this. And this is what Pooh says. As Winnie the Pooh says, can we go back to page one and start all over again? And the narrator is still on the show, right? And he says, this is Pooh saying this. Can we go back to page one and start all over again? And the narrator, you hear him in the background say, but Pooh, it's just another turn of the page. And I think what's comes next will be wondrous. And that's how a lot of us feel, even when I felt towards the end of the night of the Disney and all that. It's like, God, man, like I was looking forward to this trip and now it's coming to the end and I have to go back. And that's how it is with your film, right? With color. Sorry. Well, yeah, colors.
Hello, Cielo. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Sorry. But it's just that's how it is with a lot of our stuff, right? We look forward to the film, we look forward to filming, we look forward to, but like we wish we can go back at times and relive it because it was so grand, so
Mm,
memorable. But what's beauty is the fact that when the narrator told Pooh, but why go back to page one when if we were to turn the page, there's something grand in the other side.
absolutely. There's
And
so
I
much
and I yeah.
story to tell.
So I thought that's just I was like, I love that quote. You know what I mean?
It is.
And it's a great quote for life of just saying, don't get caught up on what just finished. Look forward to
Mhm.
what's to come.
Right. And lean into it, right? Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
absolutely.
Lean into it and look forward to the better chapters ahead, the new adventures, the greater adventures, you know?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. This was lovely. I appreciate it.
Ah,
And glad
well, thank
the
you.
timing worked out.
I'm glad too. And so for the viewers to find you on social media, where can they find you real quick?
Uh, and on Instagram is CGA 2022. I also just published a book called Pedacitos, Little Pieces.
Oh, cool.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Nice.
It's also another thing that I'm releasing. So if people want to check out some of my written work, it's in Ocote Libre Press. But
Okay.
yes, follow me and let's be in community. I love creating and getting to know people, even if we're not immediately around the corner. I think it's important to see each other.
Exactly. Right. Well, thank you so much, Crystal, for coming on. And I really appreciate you coming on Rhythm and Roads. And we will catch you guys in the next episode.